Ladies and gentlemen, we have Raymond Tiamo. Raymond chose to come to the Kimberley. Where are you, Raymond? Get up here. Make him welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Just before I got up here, Robin was going around saying to people, break a leg. I'm thinking, what do I do? Right. As you know, I'm from New Zealand. And I love coming to Derby Bush Poets because the poetry here is so fantastic. So I thought I'd dedicate this next poem. It's called Hori the Maori Shearer. He'd come from the Southland, from the land across the sea, from the place called Aotearoa. He was a real Maori. The Kiwis called him Hori, which means George in Māori, see? He could play guitar and dance and sing and watched Union on TV. He was known for his farming on New Zealand's rocky hills, where the rain falls in the winter and comes down in muddy rills, where the grass is fresh and verdant, and the air is pure and clean. He was smart and dark and rugged. He was muscular and lean. He'd learnt his trade of farming by looking after sheep. He dipped and drenched and neutered them. He could do it in his sleep. No one knows why Hori did it, why he gathered up his things and caught an Air New Zealand flight right there to Alice Springs. He was searching for adventure on an Aussie outback station. He'd never worked on one before, so he'd got a reputation. I mean, he was a good bloke. In nearly any situation, it's just the way he did things made for strange communication. He'd always say, "Hey there, bro," which means g'day to you. And he'd rightly do the haka if you made him angry too. He taught the boss to de-sex lambs. Hori was second in cahoots. He neutered all the station lambs with their head stuck in a boot. Hori liked to wear his jandals when he chilled out with a beer. He wouldn't wear a thong, you see, because those are underwear. He'd reach into his chili bin, that's an esky for you lot, and drink until his thirst was slaked when the summer sun was hot. "How do you say fish and chips?" his Aussie mates would tease, but every face showed stunned surprise when he'd say, "Properly." Well, one autumn they were sharing and a few new boys were slacking. They said they'd top 300, but their numbers still were lacking. The bossman asked the Māori what he thought they ought to do to get their numbers up to scratch and see the season through. "I got an idea about that, bro," the Māori fella said. He took his sharpened hand shears and banged his hat upon his head. He rang his good mate Jerry, who'd left the team long since, and put a plan in action for his young recalcitrants. One day up, Jerry wandered. He pretended he was new. He'd come up there from Sydney, like a lot of Kiwis do. Hori suddenly grabbed Jerry and he tossed him in a chute, in front of all those workers, saying, "Here's what I'll do. If you can't get 300 sheep a day shorn through this shed, you're in the wrong profession. Try office work instead. And as an added bonus, I give neutering to guys who tell me one big story but just talk a pack of lies. So if you think you'll do it, tell me now if you're proceeding. Otherwise, you'll see the shearing chute minus 2 things I'll be needing." Well, Jerry shot through straight away. His boots were really flying. He pretended he was scared as hell, like there are worse things than dying. The new boys all stood shocked and still, their faces grave and ashen. They dropped their cuppers straight away and shared with renewed passion. The bossman smiled a knowing smile and Hori tipped his hat. Each shearer made 300 then, and each day after that.